Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another dev stream. We're going to be working on some more Xibalba, some more cosmonarchy concepts. Specifically, we're going to be working on the Ansifii tech tree. I got all my ducks in a row, so to speak, so we don't actually need to do any crazy site updates. Obviously, I've got the new cosmonarchy page up here, and I also updated mechanics earlier today, just with a little bit of a note about construction. It's really nothing special. There's nothing going on there beyond what you would expect out of construction in an RTS, but I figured I would throw it in there because at least we have documentation of it as a mechanic. And again, we're kind of trying to define every single thing that's going into it, which is it's a lot when you think about it, and a lot that you don't think about because you're just so used to it. And then I also threw in acceleration in the have-not section. This might actually be implemented later if we decide to experiment with it or something, but I think we'll go without it for now, and we'll see how that changes movement. So if you want to read about those, you can check it out there. And I think that's pretty much it. We can take a look at the Ansifii tech map. This is just the same as we left it 2 days ago. I have been a little bit busy doing birthday maps and such for the last couple of weeks. In fact, I somehow managed to make 3 maps in less than 3 weeks, which for me is quite impressive. And like the maps were, worthwhile experiences, I think, and hopefully enjoyed by all of their recipients. And obviously, I got some people to QA them as well. Veek was gracious enough to give them tests, and then some other people would give me impressions after the fact they had already been released. And yeah, if you're interested in those, you can check out their descriptions, and I'll be pushing an actual update for them sometime pretty soon. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it feels nice to be able to say that you've got you've got your ducks in a row, so to speak. You've done all your duties, and it's just good to go. So yeah, that's basically it. So that's where we stand right now. We got 4 maps out there in the wilderness, and pretty cool, pretty good stuff. So we'll get into the Ansifii stuff momentarily. And we'll see where that goes, basically, for lack of a better term. So, here's the scratch pad. Here's my little to-do list. I've already done the mechanics and construction, and on this stream, we're mostly going to be doing tech map, and we might get to immersive planning, or this might just be moved to another stream. This is something I would probably want to do on stream, but maybe I'll organize myself a little bit better beforehand, off stream. And I definitely want to note the Cosmonarchy control scheme stuff, but that will not be on stream either, just because it's a bit dry. It's not really particularly entertaining, so we'll save that for later. Let's pull up our Visual Studio Code workspace. And it seems like it's broken, actually, which is pretty good. So I guess I'll just go ahead and close it and reopen it. Just another reason to love the tools you're working with. I don't know why I have such an aversion to this program. I think it's probably because it's terrible. But you know how it is. So, yeah, we'll be getting into it. We'll be doing stuff. I think I'm pretty satisfied with the current spot of the first 2 tiers. There's probably 1 or 2 more units that we can squeeze in there, but nothing's coming to me right now. So I will, speaking of ideas and stuff, I will have to pull open the, what do we got here? Oh, that's like a really old one. Exactly. Oh, I forgot to post these in the server. I'll do that later. I should probably put those into an Imgur album or something instead of posting them one by one. So I guess I can just do that. And we'll try that instead of spamming individual things. Although Imgur doesn't actually load for me, so pranked. Okay, now I can just delete these then. So, let me go to my main desktop and open up this. I was thinking maybe there could be a. I'm not sure if I want this to be a unit that's an infantry or a unit that's a vehicle, but I really like the idea of naming an Ansifii unit Banneret or something like that. Something like maybe Herald or something would be a little bit more flowy. The trouble is that I do kind of want the units for the Ansifii to feel very to not feel particularly like fancy, at least in terms of the kinds of vibes that you get from them. Um, I kind of want them to feel very powerful in their names. Like Intendant has a lot of like harsh vowels, harsh consonants. Really, you got like Thunderhead, which is kind of a funny name, but you still get that like Gauntlet. You know, there's like these really tough sounding ideas or sounding syllables. You know, um, and that's also an advantage to having stuff that's like multiple words that you put together in some way, which is like strong arm or cloud burst or something, where you kind of are you're piggybacking off of some other things, right? You're taking existing words and you're moving them together, so you're almost benefiting from the meaning of in the individual word, and then begging the question, why are these two words together, and what does that mean when put together? You know, some of these are normal, like road trip and strong arm are kind of normal, but like cloud burst instantly is like, okay, cloud is like in the sky, and then burst is like, well, if it's cloud burst, that kind of makes me think of like weather, because that cloud burst is actually a word. But the fact that it's a unit name makes me think of, oh, this is going to be something that's like, you know, does something specific, and indeed it does. It has a cloud canister and everything. So, yeah, pretty cool. I also do kind of. I'm not sure how many people have noticed this, but I have just straight up taken names from the weapons of Fraud Strike and moved them into the Ansifii. I don't know how many of those I'll continue messing about with, but like Tyrant doesn't really fit, right? But that's the name of the T side, you know, rifle. Blitzkrieg obviously doesn't fit because it's Earth centric. Trying to think of some of the other names that they had. I guess Longshot is kind of like fine, but it feels kind of weird to have that be the name of a unit. Like, I guess that could be a sniper unit or something, but I almost feel like that doesn't fit Ansifii because sniper units don't really fit Ansifii in the same way. Although, this did just make me think. So I was having this conversation with Alexander briefly on the server after my previous stream 2 days ago. One of the things that came to my mind, came to my attention, was the fact that we basically had we had all of these sort of elements where, so you would basically have something like, what would you call it anyway? It would be like the infantry themselves are kind of short range, especially in the early stages of the game. They're not really long range. And a thought that I did have is, you know, we have the idea of artillery coming in the form of vehicles, but what if an Ansifii infantry unit was also like a mortar or a long range, you know, artillery unit? Because that would be kind of thematic to have like even their infantry, like even their artillery is infantry, that kind of thing, right? Where yeah, they have some support strikes, like surgical strike stuff from the vehicles, like the Cutlass. But I wonder if maybe it's better to actually have that be an infantry unit instead. It does kind of muddy the waters with the idea that the infantry requires support from the other branches in order to make up its core weaknesses. But maybe there could be some very high tier units that would end up being snipers, like precision snipers or something. Because sniping is an infantry throwback. You know, it's a long-standing infantry aspect. But yeah, I don't know. These are some things I'm thinking about anyway. So we'll see where that goes. Let me put some music on. It's kind of a tough part when I'm using Spotify lately for my music, because obviously I can't listen to anything on YouTube anymore. Owned. Oh, here we go. But trying to find stuff that I haven't figured out how to actually navigate the desktop interface very well yet. All right. If we're really going to get started here, we might as well pour ourselves a drink. The benefits of YouTube Premium. No ads. You're able to play in the background if you leave the app on mobile. And you don't have, what's the term? You don't get that video paused, continue watching thing. That is the only reason why I can't listen to mixes on YouTube anymore, is because when I'm listening to them for like hours on end because I'm doing a mod stream or something, right, or a dev stream, I just get interrupted randomly, and I was like, well, I'm not going to deal with this when I can just use alternatives. It would still be better to not use Spotify or any other streaming thing at all and just use Fubar, but a lot of the music out there I don't have, and I don't feel like pirating, or maybe it's not even available. I honestly haven't looked. So. I already went over the whole like video pause, continue watching thing. It's just a prank because it doesn't actually save them anything. If you don't do that, then you keep getting ad revenue, and surely the ad revenue of people who are watching a video for a long time, surely that is offsetting the cost of serving them the video. So I don't even know why they do it. It seems like they're actually losing money from doing it. What's up, Night of the Realm? So, yes, fuck Google indeed. As I say, that's using their platform in part to stream. We definitely need to target 3 and 4 over here for tiers. Probably 5 as well. It seems pretty barren, but that's a little bit lower on the totem pole of priorities. But thinking about snipers, do we want to introduce long-range infantry? Does that muddy the waters too much? If it does, I think long-range infantry can be fine if it's like basically more of an accessibility thing than anything, where you don't need to train, you don't need to build up an armor branch structure until the what do you call it? So in order to get access to artillery or long-range attacks, you would need to build into the armor branch, right? So if you did that, if you went that approach, then you'd be branching into infantry and armor at the same time. Whereas if you went deep enough into infantry, I think maybe it makes sense for you to get some sort of combat role overlap where you're training an infantry unit to do the job that a vehicle could have done like 2 tiers earlier, but you're doing it now just so that you can say you have it, like just so that you can use it basically, right? So what's up, Shirk? I forgot to say hi to you earlier. What's up, Stratos? I saw one of your videos earlier about I think it was the one where you it was the CCMU one. Yeah, that's the one. That was a solid playthrough of a map. Really, we need, like, the tough part is that obviously everybody wants to have like more maps to play on, so they're not just playing on the same ones over and over again. But when the tools are so limited, and even when you make a map, you get CCMU'd. Like, I have to keep all these birthday maps I've been making to like low scale, where you can only have like as many as like 5 or 6 players, and if you do have more than 4 players, it has to be like tiny scale in terms of the maps, just to avoid that CCMU limit. It's pretty annoying, but I still enjoy the video anyway. It's pretty good. And yeah, basically what you guys were saying in the YouTube chat is true. It's if you annoy the consumer long enough, maybe they'll spend money on it. And that's monopolistic thinking, isn't it? Like, you can't make the experience deliberately worse than other alternatives unless there are no other alternatives. And that's the main thing, is like, part of it is that people are not willing to move on to other alternatives, but another part is that no real good alternatives exist. Like, I use Odyssey all the time. I use this platform all the time for watching videos, and they don't have you can listen in the background. Like, they don't have the limitation. Basically, everything that I had with YouTube Premium, I have with Odyssey in terms of how it works. The trouble is, they don't have a whole lot of, features yet, or the features that they do have are they're not as good as YouTube, right? So I'm listening to a video at double speed. Odds are I'm going to get a couple of stutters along the way. And I am on Odyssey as well. I don't know how frequently it syncs my uploads. Maybe it doesn't, and I have to manually do it. I don't know. That might be another thing I have to look into later. But anyway, the point is, maybe I'll be able to set up a restream to them as well. But the idea that I have anyway is that like people should be using some of these other platforms. I'm not really into the crypto thing. Like they keep pushing the crypto stuff. I have no idea what that's like, but hopefully it works out for them because YouTube definitely needs to be kicked off a fucking pedestal. Okay, so snipers. That's what we were going to talk about. So first of all, we have to make a sequel to the Waylay. That's going to be in tier 3. I'm thinking sniper might be either a tier 5 exclusive or a tier 4 exclusive. Oh, okay. That's why I haven't seen him upload much stuff. That's interesting. Is BitChute paywalled or something? I vaguely recall BitChute being some. Maybe I'm thinking of no. Vimeo's not paywalled. I don't remember. There was some weird thing about BitChute. I haven't checked it out, but that's pretty cool. Hope he's doing well over there. Because basically, like the difficult part is that when you have no options, when you believe you have no options, you're just going to stick with the monopoly. But if you have the theory in your head that you've got like, oh, there's other things I can do here, right? I can go to this website, I can go to that website. It's the same thing as like going to a different grocery store for your options because they have their own things or whatever. You know what I mean? Or I guess it's easier than that because you don't have to go to a physical location. It's literally just like set up an account and then if you even need to set up an account. Like for a long time, I didn't even have an Odyssey account. I just watched videos on it and it was fine. But yeah, so what I'm getting at is like, there's not a huge deal with setting up other accounts for other things, right? Other video platforms. But a lot of people don't do it. Like, really, we need that decentralization or whatever term works for having a diaspora of options. And I guess the toughest part is like it's hard to be discoverable if unless you as a user only look at a specific thing and then like keep looking at it. Because if you're only on BitChute, how do I find you? You know what I mean? At this point, I haven't actually found creators using Odyssey, but I found creators on YouTube that do mirror their stuff on Odyssey, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just watch them on Odyssey. For one, better features, but for another, not YouTube. So, and that didn't take too long for me to commit to memory. All right, back to this. Let me compare these stats to the Maverick. I'll just use some. I haven't filled in speed much, but I will start doing that now, I think. I made a lot of units. Okay. Let's go back to Herald. You? I don't know why it tells me you, but at least it's you. So we have the idea that this is predecessor. Ansifii you waylay. This is successor. Herald. Go to B captaincy. Okay. So we have to make a entry here, which is you. No, this is Herald rifle. It's too bad I can't use Earth-centric terms because I would do some shitty pun where it's sauropod because they're soaring through the air. So this is a little bit of a different unit role for the combat, but... Oops. Ranked. Okay. Owned. Tier 3. So, it's a bit of a... So this is a bit of a copycat unit, if you will, but the key distinctions for my money come in the triple shot and the reasonable armor pen at this range. I mean, it might even increase. Fires as fast as the Maverick does, has less range, but can jump 12 range instead of 10, so it gets a longer jump. So I think that's pretty good. I'm not sure about the Hypervials cost on it. Might be overpriced compared to, like, you might be getting less value for the money that you're actually dumping into this unit, because you do have to micro it a bit to make sure that it's jumping, but it can also store 2 jumps instead of 1. This is an idea that I've had for a little while now, is that it never made sense to me that every specialist, is what we called them in Cosmonarchy Brood War, but every spellcaster in Brood War in general had 200 energy, or 250 if you upgraded them. We obviously just made that 200 flat in Cosmonarchy Brood War because we removed upgrades. But like the fact that you couldn't, I mean, we could have done this, I guess, on a programming level, but the fact that you don't have varied amounts of energy is weird to me. I think just like you have varied amounts of health and shields, energy being a constant doesn't really need to be the case. Like, you should just be able to have a stat that is associated with a unit, like any other stat, where it can change, instead of it being like you always have this much energy. It's really puzzling to me because I'm not sure if... Maybe this isn't the case. Maybe you only had a cap of 100 mana in Warcraft 2. I think that was the case in Warcraft 1. But it feels like maybe they had varied amounts of mana in that game. It just feels weird that Blizzard would have restricted it to that. But whatever, that's fine. I mean, if for StarCraft scale, it's probably okay. It's just for this, I actually want to play around with energy in different ways. And I could just make the ability cost less or more energy. Like, I could make the energy of the in-stride leap for the Waylay cost more energy than the same ability, basically, for the Herald. But that, to me, is more inconsistent than the units themselves having different energy. Well, a lot of Regencies are not planned to have HP regeneration without, like, a passive or something, like innate HP regeneration. Mostly because I find it to be kind of invisible. Like, I would actually prefer if, for example, like, this is a mechanic I thought about implementing for Zerg, actually. Although AI wouldn't really have used it very well, I don't think. In some ways, they would have used it pretty well. In other ways, it would have just been dumb, which is in keeping with how AI usually are. But that's not the main reason why I didn't implement it. I just didn't really think about it super heavily. But I actually would have liked if Zerg received, I don't know, 2 HP per second regen, which I think is double what they currently have. If we look at the Cosmonarchy Brood War page, it'll tell me exactly what the HP regeneration is. Because I think we changed it, right, to... Although, maybe it's not documented? I know we changed it at some point. I think I documented it in the change log. If I go to the release page. No. I was gonna say regenerate while borrowed makes a lot more sense to me. I don't know why. Oh, I'm not signed in, so it's in bright mode. That's pretty nice. I'll re-sign in later. HP regen. Okay, we'll just regen. Here we go. 1 HP per second. Yeah, I think if you just made it 2 or 3 HP per second while burrowed in Brood War, it would actually be there'd be a reason to burrow your units, right? And you would even want to do that in combat, and that would start a very game knowledge focused thought process where you're fighting Zerg. They borrow some of their units, and now you know I have to kill the rest of these units or like resolve the fight or whatever, unless I have detection. I have to be able to like resolve this battle before their units are full HP again. And based on however many fights I've already fought in this method, I already know exactly how long that takes, or roughly how long that will take. So I think that would be really neat, and especially when we have the option to show health bars in Antikythera, where you'll be able to see all of the health bars of allies and enemies. Like, I don't think there's any reason to not show that. Like, you can't select groups of units, so you'd never be able to tell. But yeah, my thought process is this would change a lot, because suddenly you would attack with say you have an army of like 20 units or something, and it's like a small skirmish force, and you harass a base and you lose maybe 8 of your units, so you come back with 12. You retreat and you burrow somewhere, and your opponent probably knows that you're burrowed somewhere because you're trying to heal your units. So he starts hunting you around, and you could potentially ambush him there. Like, there's a lot that would, I think, that would add a cerebral element to playing as Zerg, especially in the early game when your individual units matter more. And it would just in general make it a lot more exciting to do battle. And I think it would stress detection a little bit more, but in a way that is like a response to a mechanic that is being used deliberately in a strategic manner, as opposed to it being like, oh yeah, you just have to because, cloaking being binary or whatever. So I think that would just be an upgrade altogether. The AI, again, would never use it in the middle of battle, besides Lechizalisks, I guess. But even then, they unburrow those all the fucking time. But, then it creates a more interesting dynamic with burrow anyway, because now the Lechizalisk is generating... It's basically... It's not really life-stealing, but it's like... It's actually rewarded even further for burrowing, right? So there is that as well. It just feels like it would be a better mechanic. More skill... testing, like more areas for you to think about that stuff. So yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense, because then it's also an active decision. So the whole reason I didn't like HP regeneration being passive is because it's like you're not doing anything. And that's why taking it away when you're in combat is at least an upgrade, in that you can counteract it as an enemy, you can work against it, and then as a result of it being interactable, you can then make it more powerful, because now there's a counter to it. There's a way to attenuate it or reduce its effectiveness if you're an opponent. So yeah. So I think the trouble really is that, like, that makes a lot of sense, and it seems like it would even be kind of easy to get to a good healing value. Like, I still think 3 HP per second is probably fine, but maybe it would even be higher. Maybe it'd be like 4 or 5. I would want to make it a constant rate for the entire regency, or race in this case. So whatever I decide for borrowing, there will probably... I don't know if that'll be an Orlithray trait. Like... My concept for the Orlithray didn't really involve a lot of borrowing. Obviously, I've taken the Zerg concept and really removed a lot of what made them mechanically unique, or mechanically Zerg. Like, there's no larva, instead you've got the egg slots. We talked about that as well, where the egg slots themselves would be able to fit a certain amount of weight, so the egg slots would be weight capacity based. So that could be kind of interesting. Stuff like that. I feel like maybe you could even, maybe all of their town centers would even be garrisonable. So you could choose to lock or unlock the structure. And if you locked it, then units that were being gestated would actually stay within the egg slots as like a garrison. So you say you're training like a bunch of ranged units and you're about to get attacked, you could like lock the garrison. And instead of exiting after spawning, they would stay within the structure, and they would attack out or whatever. So that could be something interesting. Maybe instead of locking it, you just have to re-enter it or whatever. But there's some things that you could do theoretically. That would also allow you, like, if you if you're just gestating a bunch of workers and you get attacked and you're trying to drive them back, it would allow you to lock the structure so that workers stay garrisoned inside and don't die, don't get picked off instantly. I'm not sure if that's actually desirable, but that would be one other way that you could use the mechanic. So I kind of have to think about whether or not I would actually like that. Yeah, I don't know. Seems like it's pretty. It seems like there's a lot of like potential or whatever for that sort of thing. Well, it's not a garrison if they can't attack from it. But the idea was that you could transform your town centers into powerful static defense. This is actually a mechanic in Age of Empires 3, but maybe all of them. Probably all of them, where you can garrison, or maybe it was like a specific civilization had this power. I wouldn't mind that being a trait, but yeah, I'm not sure. The other thing too is that there will probably be some anti-garrison behaviors or weapons or something that bleed through the, like, that can deal damage to clean them out. I have to be careful that that doesn't turn into some wacky hard counter shit though. Like like there's what is it? CNC3 has this thing where you can garrison stuff, and then if you just throw a single Molotov cocktail at it, the entire building's innards just combust and the units all die inside. And it's like, okay, that's like the fucking lamest possible way to have a counter to that. Instead, it would just actually deal genuine damage to a unit that's in that area, right? Because we actually have to make it so that some units are targetable, right? Like in the pavilion's case, I think there will be another passive I have to add to this, another like ability documentation called like open roof or something, where you can actually target units inside the structure or inside the tank in this case, the giant mobile tank. I think there has to be a way for you to be able to actually engage in units and like attack units and structures within as hard points, almost like turrets or something on a ship, as separate units instead of just having to kill the structure itself. So you can choose between, and this is the concept for the tactical platform for Cosmonarchy Brood War as well. You can choose between trying to smash the units inside or trying to destroy what's carrying them. And then obviously we get into like unload speed and stuff. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff there. I'm sorting my list of unit names currently. I'm separating the ones that are directly Earth-centric so that I don't have to, wait. I used a Thuzalon somewhere in a script for a Cosmonarchy Brood War mission. Apparently it doesn't even exist, though. I guess we can do a rare Google search. No? Okay. I guess that's just a fucking thing I made up because it sounded cool. Okay. I know Aurelion is some god. Okay, this one also. Feel like Justicar is a rank somewhere in real life. Oh, there's Justiciar. So it's just removing that. Okay. I don't know what you mean by phalanxes. Alright, I think I sorted through all of this shit. Well, open roof is for garrisons. It would allow you to target the units inside. So basically it would mean that the units within the garrison are not protected by, like, they're targetable. So I don't think open roof would make any sense for siege tanks unless the siege tank is also a garrison, which is an interesting concept, but not something I had considered. Yeah, what's up, Wuck? It was the Command and Conquer 3. That game had this garrison mechanic where you'd like staff infantry in a structure and they become fucking unkillable, unless you just leveled the structure. But you also had a unit that threw a Molotov or had a flamethrower or something, and like the slightest little tick of damage from it would just immediately combust every infantry in there. It was just a hard counter. It was like a rock paper scissors move. So it was very uninspiring. Oh, you're talking about loading the unit as cargo. Yeah. However, there is the small matter of picking a good preview image for that. Oh, wait. Then I just remembered as well, I think I had to change this. And then Cutlass. I would probably just give them bonus armor or something instead of a multiplier so that we don't have any percentage stuff. But yeah, it's a good idea to give them some sort of protective boost. I think like even abilities that deal damage will interact with the armor system, so the abilities will have armor pen and stuff like that. Plus, you'll have healers and repair units that can be active inside garrison structures. Like specifically, the pavilion is tough to quantify because one of the things, right, is that like tweak abilities. Let me just pull my latest changes so that I can actually show what I'm talking about here. So the thing about the pavilion is that you're actually supposed to be able to move units around inside it. Like, literally, it's a moving piece of terrain, basically. It's like another level of terrain, in my mind. So it is kind of like the tactical platform. It just happens to be a ground unit. Because it's going to be so large, like, it's going to be able to fit, like, a decent amount of structures and stuff, so... Movement speed is a clock for now. That's interesting. We need a leg icon. But yeah, like, I'm not sure if you'll ever have an open roof without the open floor plan. Um, so I guess there will have to be another passive here called floor plan or something. But yeah, I'm not sure. We'll need to think about that. So I'll note that anyway, because I guess it is pretty important. Find pavilion here. Although, yeah, I do need another icon, don't I? Okay, we've done that. And we got our Herald, new unit. So before you popped in here, Chalks, we were talking about how the Ansifii infantry are kind of characterized by the fact that they are close range, not the most mobile when just generally walking. And so they benefit from self-propellant stuff like the Waylay or Herald, where they have the leap ability, where they can jump for pretty high ranges, 10 and 12 at tiers 1 and 3 respectively. And then there's also troop transports like the road trip, for example, that move faster than them. I might even make the road trip move significantly faster than it currently does. I'm not sure. And then obviously there's going to be like some healing and some crowd control and fire support from Orbital. The other thing that armor currently provides is high range. And so one of the things I was thinking about is maybe it makes sense for the idea that I'm teched super far into infantry. Eventually, some of the flaws of the infantry branch, if you will, the weaknesses, can be alleviated a little bit. So surely if we wanted to specialize into super long range attacks, we would still be going down armor. And if we wanted to specialize in maybe like crowd control stuff, we would be going heavy down orbital, or whatever the defining strength of that branch ends up being. Probably mobility and stuff, harassment and whatnot. And my thinking was that as you get further down the infantry section, you'll have more ways to close distances and more ways to interact at higher ranges. So I was thinking of introducing a sniper unit. Maybe at tier 3, maybe tier 4, maybe tier 5. I'm not really settled on it. I was thinking 4 or 5 seem more likely because we already have 3 units at tier 3 for the captaincy. That just generally exists. For some reason, it doesn't say that it trains the gauntlet, because I forgot to put that in, I guess. I don't think I did, though. Oh, it's gauntlet. That would be why. There you go. The trouble about good terrain is that I feel like it's any sort of change. I think I've talked about this mechanic before, although it was many years ago now, or a year ago at least. The problem with terrain being different is that, like, even in a world where you have really good pathfinding, it still will feel effectively random unless you're specifically waypointing units, which is a pretty big microsync, I think. So I don't know that there's really much of a value in going down the road of creating like better terrain, or having different movement speed penalties or benefits. You know, they probably wouldn't be flat, which is tough. And I would like to leave speed changing stuff, stat changing stuff, really in general, would probably be best served for consistent flat things where it makes sense, like gaining range over speed over height differences, and stuff like that, as opposed to it being like, oh, you're on this terrain type, so get a speed boost. Maybe there could be like a specific area of a map that would like give you it's like a stim pack dispensary or something. I was thinking, I don't know. I was trying to think of something that would make sense for giving you speed specifically. I could think of like a fountain of speed or something. Like imagining it Warcraft 3 where you get the speed rune, where that stupid horseshoe U is over your units' heads, like just by walking up to it or something. I could maybe see something like that, although it is a bit wacky to imagine, like to try to justify it. But there's ways to do it. But I wouldn't want it to be like a something where your units just arbitrarily move slower or faster on based on where they walk, because it's not really random where they walk. It is based on user input, but it does introduce a whole host of other downstream problems, like making AI consider it, and that's going to be very computationally expensive and stuff. Yeah, even Mario Party has that, or Mario Kart or whatever. I don't know any of these games, TBH. It would definitely make people consider terrain differently, but I think there's ways to do that without having it be quite so fucky. So we need another APC type unit that the road trip can be a successor to, or a predecessor to. I'm kind of thinking about hovercraft. I was thinking maybe the next hovercraft would be tier 4 actually instead of tier 3. So you have to specialize into it a little bit. I'm not sure about siege. I guess a tier 4 is probably good to introduce some sort of very powerful entrenching tank like unit, similar to siege tanks. These guys get bonus range, but they don't deal AoE. They fire off. The idea is that they're precision strikes. So they fire off like really solid, instant, not instant hits, but like the projectiles are very fast. So that'll be a kind of a pretty cool thematic unit, I think. So we know what we want to throw in here. We want to throw in a sniper at tier 4 or 5, a Squire sequel, hovercraft at tier 4 for armor, road trip successor in tier 3, that's like an APC for troop transport. So we already have those 3 concepts taken care of. And then we know we want I still think Nebula is probably too powerful a name for something in tier 3, but we'll figure that out later. For Orbital, I definitely think we need to have another supportive type unit in maybe tier 3 specifically. I guess the Cloudburst is kind of supportive, but I would like a successor to the Soft Spot in some way. Soft Spot feels a little out of place on the Omnibay, I'm not going to lie. But the Omnibay is designed to be like... you get this for support or because you need to scramble some light fighters. That's something where I wonder if maybe the path sign and the motive should actually be moved down in the tech tree, and the rotary as well, and then a new tech structure specifically for more supportive stuff coming out of the Omnibay might be more useful. Because the path sign and the motive feel a little bit more like something that should come out of the Climatarium, something more for, conventional fighters or whatever. Well, there is the idea that like the Madcap gains attack speed in Cosmonarchy Brood War, the more attacks it fires off while standing still. So there is the idea that like you might be able to do something like that, where you could interact with stats basically based on attacks made while standing still. Like he basically starts losing the stacks with every step he takes, right? So every movement speed. When he starts moving, he starts losing stacks, and then he can charge them back up. They don't all fall off instantly. It's a slow well, maybe not a very slow drop, but it is a drop. So that could be kind of interesting to make it like a stacked behavior where you maybe the guy gets range or attack speed, similar to the Madcap, but it's like a tank thing where the longer he's holding still, the better. And then obviously if you do have units that repel or repulse or pull a guy like that, that is counting his movement, so he starts losing some power. Or if he's just like the more common one is that you're just forced to turn the unit around because you're being attacked, right? You have to kite backwards in order to keep the unit alive, but you're losing some DPS. So do you want to save him from damage, or what exactly do you want to do, right? So one thing we are missing, I think, in infantry right now, in addition to like the whole sniper idea that I had that is probably going to be stuck on tier 4, is I think we're missing a sort of crowd controlling type unit. That could be something that comes out of the canteen. You could have some sort of Ahmed type motherfucker. I mean, you do have crowd control from the strong arm, and he is a bit like he's ranged. So we could probably make this guy like make his weapon a bit more impactful, and then make his cost a little bit more. Make him pricier basically, and then we could have we could have an Ahmed basically. I'm thinking of like where to put an Ahmed at this point. Some sort of like shorter ranged combatant. I guess he'd probably be a shotgunner at this range or at this tier, and your Ahmed replacement with some sort of fire weapon would be a tier 4 instead, or a tier 5 or something. One of the things that I'm looking forward to doing basically is like phasing out some of the unit concepts, like the Gauntlet, for example, is obviously a sequel to the Gauge. You can tell because the icons are the same. But it's a successor to the Gauge. It has this sort of like on-hit effect, and it's melee. And phasing those units out or moving them to the specialist tiers, which are the even tiers, is something where like you're basically swapping stuff around. So at first, right, like, yeah, okay, your first instance of the short range, but not melee range combatant is going to be in the canteen. So that'll be the shotgunner. And then you'll go down and there will be a flame trooper type unit somewhere in maybe tier 4, maybe not even again until tier 5. Or something, but like eventually he'll move on to the main production structure instead of requiring a town center or tech center rather. And the idea is that you're basically seeing like, okay, which ones are rising up in terms of utility and power budget and stuff, and which ones are requiring more specialty tech. Because maybe the sequel to the Gauntlet that requires tier 6 tech instead of tier 5 tech, like he's moved down to requiring the Octagon, that guy would be something that is really, really strong, but expensive, and is more specialized, is less general purpose. It's almost like as the tiers are progressing, the utility for a melee fighter becomes more niche, and then you specifically need to tech into it deliberately at tier 6 if you want to include it in your army, because it's no longer as like well-rounded or general purpose. And so keeping track of essentially what I imagine the average compositions would actually look like. If something is in one of these like even tiers where you're going to want to use it all the time, I might consider moving it up to, at some point in the future, like a successor for it might be moved up to the mainline town's production facility. Because we're basically designing it for that particular purpose, right? We're designing the system here so that you have these versions of different units. So yeah, it's pretty good. I think there's a lot of potential with a system like this, personally. And I'm very much looking for. I was talking about birthday maps. Obviously, Chucks did some voice acting for the latest one. Shoutouts to Tony Tron, pretty cool guy. But I'm really looking forward to making birthday maps in the new engine, or just making content in general. But I feel like I can do a lot more personal touch stuff in the new environment, where I can just be like, oh, you want to do like specifically for you, Chucks, because obviously you're the installation map man. If I could do something where it's like you're actually playing Eternal Death 2 or something as a joke, as a bit or whatever, but like I could actually make something that I wouldn't mind playing myself and have it be a micro map, and that's where your extra line will come in handy. This is a micro map, bitch. You'll start out with a base and it'll be a prank. It'll be like it'll be yourself talking to yourself, saying, "Time to mine some resources." And then, psych! And your whole base blows up. This is a micro map, bitch. And you control yourself. Yeah, Dreamhold's game flow is pretty like what I would want out of a map where you're just, or a game where you're just controlling one person, one entity. But I'm not sure if it would be, I mean, I don't know. Like maybe I would be able to make a Dreamhold opera specifically for somebody's birthday and be like fit in all of the fun little things about it or whatever, where it's like, it would be like a custom one where maybe you don't have an AI ally initially or in the early stages and you're just exploring and like the maps quickly grows to be more involved and covered in enemies and stuff. And then you have to like ally yourself with somebody or something. I don't know. There's probably a bunch of different ways that it could happen. Yeah. The possibilities truly are endless. Steel and iron might also be they might be towing the line, to be honest, or straddling the line with regards to dealing with the fact that that's kind of Earth-centric. But I guess it might be fine. I don't know. Yeah, there would be upstarts for enemies, but then there would... Well, no, in Dreamhold, there are actual regencies, like, playing an RTS around you, so... But for, like, a lower scale thing or something, yeah, I guess upstarts would make a bit more sense. But the idea is that when you're deploying into an opera in Dreamhold as a thespian, you're aiding a regency, or a regent, controlling a regency. How do you feel about calling the commanders regents, by the way? That is like that is a really funny fucking simulation. That's from some ridiculous Brood War campaign. Although he didn't call the command, it was just like a rank or something, and we both thought it was hilarious. But now it's actually a legit thing. Now we're actually calling them regents. Like in our news post, you know how like Blizzard does those cringy like, greetings, commanders, executors, and cerebrits or whatever. Like it's so clunky and doesn't flow off the tongue whatsoever. Yeah, fair enough. I assume you meant steel in the first word there. Oh, you could call them crowns. Well, crowns are the universal unit of currency in Dreamhold, so because you don't have resources that you're harvesting yourself. Yeah, crown is just crow n, so it's a combination of many simulations. There you go. I'll probably change that origin later, but whatever. All right, let's check out our steel wheel. Oh yeah, we forgot to change its tier again. Owned. Ah, I didn't do its weapon. Owned again. What? That's not what I said. I was thinking about this, and I kind of wanted this unit to rock up with a chain gun. I don't know how to characterize that. Yeah, that's a pretty good icon for it, too. Now, I wanted this guy to be a chain gunner. There's also going to be a chain gunner unit that I introduced probably around tier 5, actually, as a replacement for the Maverick, or as I'll say successor, rather. And I'm thinking that he'll have a mechanic where his energy will decrease with every shot fired, and then there will be a rapid period of increasing the energy with a cooldown. So he won't actually have a weapon cooldown. So theoretically, if you can feed him enough energy, he can just keep firing, which is pretty cool, I think. So there will be there's a unit already in the game, or not game, but already planned or documented, where it's the Thunderhead, where their attacks will give energy equal to damage dealt. So if you can keep the chain gunner infantry healed and attack them with the Thunderhead, they will actually get like perpetual firing, basically. So that's like a neat little interaction, I think, between the two of them. And also there will be other ways, like we haven't done support units, too many support unit concepts yet, but there will be ways to like boost energy regen. Maybe not so many for the Ansifii. There will be other regencies though that will have a really good combo with this particular character, this particular unit. It almost feels like a concept that shouldn't actually replace general infantry, but I feel like it's not going to be that complex, so it'll probably be fine. This isn't really a chain gun in the same way. It's more like a ridiculously fire off 10 shots and stuff. However, you'll notice that it only has one armor pen, so it's kind of specialized in that against lightly armored targets, it's going to do really well because it's going to deal 30 damage. It only has one armor pen, so it can deal full damage to one armor units. So yeah, there's a lot there that I think will be really pretty interesting there. It's the kind of weapon concept you wouldn't be able to actually have in you wouldn't be able to have that kind of weapon concept without the armor pen, basically, the armor pen system. Or you would, but there would have to be some weird catch to it, where it has like passive armor pen on the unit or something. What's up, Night of the Realm? Welcome back. All right, now that we actually added this dude's weapon, there you go, you can see. So we have our troop transport. I was going to call this guy a heavy troop transport, which actually would be... Oh, no, I did call him that. Never mind. I just didn't notice. I'm looking forward to when I later today after stream, I'm going to get back into Blender work because now the birthday maps are taken care of. And I'm going to just do a little bit of a primer, probably no more than like a half an hour, just familiarizing myself with the interface again, because it is something that I didn't really commit to memory, so I don't know my way around it yet. I'll see how much I remember, and then I'll go back to the guide for whatever I missed. And then I'll just fiddle around with some junk with no real primer, just to see what happens, just to see where I go. It'll probably not be something I save. And then my thought process is, when I do that, that'll prime me for tomorrow. And while Veek is doing his engine streams, I'll be in the background. Whenever I'm not needed to process some asset or something, I will be working in Blender at the same time as he's working on his stuff. Assuming I'm joining him for the stream, I'm probably going to be available when he's doing it, so I would imagine so. Okay. I think Sky High probably makes more sense as a weapon name. Wait, the Squire had 150 health? That doesn't seem right at all. I think I just copied this from the road trip. Yeah, Squire should have way less health than that. Okay. I don't know what was going on there. I wonder if maybe a way to characterize speed would be units traveled in a second. That would make speed a lot slower in general. Like the base value would be a lot lower. So it'd be like, how many tiles can you travel? Because range is in tiles. So, full HD pixel would be 32 for a tile, which is the same as Brood War. So the range values are identical to Brood War. So maybe speed should be how many of those how many 32 pixel full HD can you travel in 1 second? Basically a tiles per second check. So I'll probably go with that, but I'll think about that a little bit longer before I make that change, and then that will obviously modify how I write the speeds, because right now they're just kind of like arbitrary values that don't mean anything. But I think making them use the same units as range, essentially, referencing the same units anyway, but talking about a different stat, like a different behavior, would be pretty good. There's the 19. Mountain top. I think I just need to go into the... Oh, did I actually name the rifle? Oh yeah, I did. Okay. The trouble is mountaintop could also be a nice... It could be a nice building name too, so... And we seem to be struggling with those. I seem to be struggling with those, I should say. What was it? Weather vane? Oh, no, it's Trove, right? Well, I think that's been long gone, so... Holy shit. I don't even want to know. I'm assuming that's just like the least performant game of all time then. Alright. Although I do need to pick a new icon for the building, probably. Wouldn't hurt. And then I need to go into the workers. Apprentice. There was something else where I wanted to change the name of the Mason rifle from Grandstand, yeah. pretty generic. I'll come up with something better later. But Grandstand is better. Is just so out of place there, so it's still an upgrade in that sense. Fix links. Get push. Oh, I also have to go to the what is it? The Trove and make this unlock the Verdant Veil. Oh, and then I didn't actually link the unit SMH. Did I link the unit in? I think I did, right? So if I can mouse over this, yeah, okay. What? What is this? Why did it break? Oh, okay. It was just the website being goofy, I guess. Right. So, then I have to go to Iron Vault and make it trained there. Okay. Cool. Oh, the Iron Vault actually is still requiring that one. It should require Weather Vane. Same for Captaincy. And Climatarium. Nice. So, I think that leaves us with... I mean, we added a couple of units already, which is pretty nice, right? We added the Herald, Mountaintop, and the Steel Wheel, and the Verdant Veil, technically. It was not a unit, it's a building, but I still added it. So I think up next I'll do the Sniper and the Shotgunner, the Tier 2 Shotgunner, the Tier 4 or 5 Sniper. Probably Tier 4, because again, I want that sort of dynamic where they go from Specialist to Everyman, if the Sniper ends up being really powerful or whatever. And I also kind of want to introduce it in the first, like, 4 tiers, just because once you hit Tier 5, that's when the tech really shakes up a lot, I think, so. You start bringing out the big guns, basically. So I think when I come back from my break that I'm about to take so I can get more water, use the bathroom, all that shit, I will be diving headfirst into the Sniper, the Shotgunner, the Flamethrower type unit, and the Artillery vehicle for Tier 4. I actually don't know if we want a Tier 4 Artillery, or if that'll wait until Tier 5. Anyway, the next Artillery unit. So those 4 concepts we can probably bang out at least before I go. And then, yeah, we'll just see where that takes us. So I shall return momentarily. Check this out in the meantime if you haven't already. Bye. Hi. Back again. Let's do it. That's pretty funny. I was meant to do this. I can't believe I set the weight for this to 2. Obviously, it should be higher than that. Okay. Is it 2 L's or 1 L in double barreled? Single. I knew it. Except I didn't know it, obviously, or I wouldn't have made that mistake to begin with. This is a page I should actually keep open so I can search for icons when I need it. Except now I can't remember the fucking unit. The unit name. Claymore. Okay. What is this? 196. There you go. I just needed to find that icon ID. Obviously, that's nothing like what the actual unit will look like, but I just needed something bigger than a tank for the purposes of showing what I'm talking about. Mm. Not sure if this is really an artillery unit at this point, though. It's more of an entrenching armor. So this would be entrenching artillery then for the Cutlass. A lot of the names for stuff is definitely going to change for like abilities and some weapons and whatnot, but should be good to go here as far as the core identity of it. So maybe this would actually be Proxima, a sequel to the Proxima. And the Cutlass can be succeeded by a different artillery. That's probably fine. Let me find the Proxima. Oh, you know what? I think I might have some other command icons lying around somewhere. I guess they would be in here. Be under. I feel like there was an old folder at some point. What happened to it? Maybe I cleaned it out earlier. Oh, frames and old. Here it is. I guess I never actually grabbed the base frames here. Oh. Oh, no. Yeah, yeah, okay. So it's the Academy and Armory that I grabbed. There you go. All right, what do we got here next? Delete that. Interesting. It's not at all the right icon for what that unit is going to be, but whatever. Trying to think about what would make the most sense for a name for a like an elite tier uh, infantry production facility. Already used captaincy for tier 3. Captaincy might end up requiring to be moved down. I'm not sure, but probably not. I can probably make it work. Marching grounds. I was kind of thinking about playing up the veteran angle. Like these guys these are seasoned combat veterans at this point. Like they've gone on their own missions, you know? I do like the, like hinting at units. Like as you get more expensive units, it's like this stuff is already, like the equipment that you're using even has seen battle in some cases, right? Like maybe not the equipment specifically because that's easier to replace, but the people using the equipment have been like on a few battles already. It makes it a little bit more impactful when you end up losing them. So yeah. You could call it like an anthem, maybe? That's the term that came to my head. I'm not sure if that's better for a unit though. Probably is. Ansifii anthem. Yeah, yeah, seasoned is also something I was thinking of. No, because if you so this is where I'll actually this is a bizarre fucking tangent, but so I actually obviously defined some tech trees for the cops. A lot of these were kind of boring, like Officer Barker was funny. Lawhound was also funny. Bear Blower was pretty good. Some of these are like from more grounded times that I just never updated, and I thought it was kind of fun. Achmech is a classic. Smashburger is just a store near me, like a eatery. The Buzz Chopper was going to play the buzz sound when you clicked on it as an homage to Helltrix. This is an amazing sprite that DF made out of it even as the call me dad and call me mom emojis in the windows. Fucking I remember when I made when he sent me this and I hooked it up. My way of showing him that it was implemented was having a bunch of officers like lined up out the door waiting to be served. That was pretty good. Doghouse, classic. Deep Office, another classic. Armory. No, there's like one specific thing that I'm looking for. Yeah, Choir Hall. That's the one. I knew what it was, but I was like waiting to find it, and maybe I would find something more useful. Arms Racist. Wow. I was not expecting Arms Racist or Wuckery. I forgot about all those. Air Accessor is hilarious to me. I don't think the Reddit guys had anything useful, the anime race. Land Whale. Kissing Station. All right, yeah, that didn't end up being very useful at all, unfortunately. Good one. Arena is a good one, but I kind of want to save it for the Keltar because they're like a warlike people, you know? What about ardency? Is that a word? Oh, it is. Intense heat. Dude, I didn't even know that. I'll have to document that. Epic. Yeah, duelists, ardency. I wonder what I'm gonna call the sort of penultimate melee. Oh, this is where we can start working into mechs for infantry. So like the natural progression is like walkers basically that are infantry that are still classed as infantry, so they come out of infantry structures. We can start to hint at that here, or basically like have some units that fit that bill. We kind of did that with the Intendant, but this is more of like a power armor type character than a full-blown mech. So like tier 5 and 6 infantry can be sort of oscillating between that. So yeah, you'll have the fucking classic guy in mech using melee weapon punching people. But he'll probably have something like the Constable's passive, where he's got the pauldron turret that fires while in motion. Yeah, I was never planning on every one of them having turrets. I'm assuming you're talking about in the gameplay sense, but I was thinking more like you just have some units that have like basically have this like auto aim drone type thing or something. Well, it wouldn't really make sense for the turret to lock, but maybe the turret could like, because the turret can swivel around, even if you lock the unit in a facing angle, the turret can still like move to another thing or whatever. Like it can continue turning to attack targets. So the tier 6 or tier 5 or whatever version of the Herald, where you get leaping infantry, as a mech is going to be pretty epic, I think. That'll probably be the same thing as the melee unit, actually, to roll them into one. Because the idea that I have is that like there's a mech that leaps that can also like ground pound or whatever. Yeah, but the turret could still track targets, I'm assuming is what you mean. Because I was reading your message, I was thinking that you meant the turret would keep moving, which obviously doesn't make sense if it's attached to the body. You could have some sort of like drone that follows the unit around or something, I guess. Wait, what is this? Ministry, right? You can use it to jump up cliffs, jump across water, whatever. Yeah, basically they would probably... We don't have pathfinding implemented yet, but they would probably be something like... If you target an area that's actually out of your range, it would try to move there first, I think. So you'd have to target something within your range. But the range is pretty gracious. It's 10 range, which is 320 pixels in full HD. It's the same range units as used in Brood War mods and Brood War in general, so... it's 10 range as the base, and then the next one is 12. I think you'll probably go back down to 10, or maybe a bit lower for the mech, just because it's bigger, it's bulkier, but we'll see. That's another thing as well, is that the producing some of the production facilities will get progressively more expensive with time and resources. However, some of them will probably be even like somehow cheaper. And the thought process there is that I don't know if this will be true for Ansifii. I think they're going to be kind of conventional in that sense. But the thought process is you unlocked a more like compact thing to build. You know what I mean? Which is kind of neat. So like a more ergonomic or economic thing that you could deploy. It's pretty good stats already. For people who don't know what Angor is, they just probably think I'm misspelling anger to be epic. Where's that from anyway? A rabbit or goat? Okay, reasonable. Angora or Angor specifically is related to like I just know it in the context of the Latin phrase angor animi, which is the sudden feeling that you are about to die, which is a pretty epic concept. That's you feel that whenever you witness one of these firebrands walk up to your worker line. All right, we still got to name our arena, dude. Training grounds. Domain. I kind of like domain, to be honest. Guess we'll just call it that for now. It's probably a way to make it more elaborate later. I can't think of anything that isn't cringe though, so just leave it as it is. TBH. This is unlocked by the ministry. And in the captaincy, we can say its successor is that. Then we can go to Firebrand and say domain. Go to Mason. Add that. Domain. Oh, this is still called Cutlass instead of Beast Horn. I knew I was gonna fuck something up. Let's click on these units. Cyprian's correct. That's a fucked up icon for it, TBH. Firebrand is not even named, but it has that. Fine. Let's check the path sign because we changed this as well. Yep. Mountaintop. We already checked earlier. That's fine. Cutlass. Yeah, that's fine. It's not created from anything yet because we don't have a name for that. That's all we added, right? We had a Cyprian, Firebrand, Cutlass, Domain, and the Firebrand needs a weapon name. That's all. I'm still not sure if I want to do Ember Seat next, or if I want to do like Keltar or Githroven. I guess if I were being super responsible, I would try to do them in the order that I intend to make the campaigns. So Ember Seat would be optimal because they're the first. They're the I've never played with a mouse and keyboard before tutorial, where there's just one mission that gets you up to speed. So I don't need to go super deep into them, but would be nice to get like their tiers 1 through 3 done. For the purpose of that tutorial. Aside from that, I'm thinking I also want to do Psychora because they're the first proper campaign. Ansifii are the proper tutorial. Psychora the first proper campaign. And then I think you'll probably play Ansifii soon after, but I don't know if they'll be right immediately next. I'm kind of thinking maybe you go into Keltar as the second campaign, but I'm not sure. I got to think about that some more. We can do some rough cut, like super basic, well, like super placeholder maps, because obviously they're going to be using Brood War assets, and placeholder unit introductions and whatnot. We can do that pretty soon because the editor is getting proper uh, serialization for saves that won't break when you change the data structure is coming up pretty soon. So that'll allow us to add arbitrary amounts of unit entries and um, tile sheet entries, and it won't like change the order of anything or whatever. So when that shows up, it'll be pretty good. All right. I still want to do a sniper in tier 4, and I want to do a um I actually almost feel like the Cyprian should be the first one in that order, actually, now that I think about it. Suborder 0. And the constable can be suborder 1. Because he's like the most basic one, right? That's actually going to be a woman, I think, but we'll see. Um. Hmm. Yeah, we're starting to get a much more fleshed out setup here. We still don't have any artillery. Um, so that's something to think about. Yeah, Kian sent me something for the Ansifii for like it was like a superhero. It was some comic book villain set basically for the Ansifii. It was surprisingly solid. So yeah, they do tend to work out somehow, one way or another. I had a dream. I just remembered now because I saw the map revealer icon. I had a dream where I was playing some wacky Brood War mod, and map revealers were like detectors and turrets. Like the map revealer sprite was used, and when you killed it, they like had this wacky decay animation for their death animation. Like it was really weird. I don't know why I was dreaming of that. I was playing on an ice map, and that happened, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? This is a weird mod. Why is that attacking me?" That's pretty funny. Pretty goofy stuff, to be honest. I was hoping that I would find something that could be used for like a different kind of tank or something like that, but unfortunately, not quite. What's up, Olivia? Welcome. I'm thinking this will be the predecessor. It won't actually have that much range, but the successor will be a little bit more specialized in that. This will be more like I'm thinking because it's like a walker with 2 cannons on it in my head, or at least 1 cannon. So I imagine it like fires a shot, the projectile's kind of slow, and then it hits. You know what I mean? Does that say ooh donut? I can't even read it. Owned. Let me see. Oh, God donut. My mistake. How could I fuck that one up? I talked about making units or structures progressively more expensive when it comes to time. I think that will actually go down for units though, because that's part of the reason why you're investing so much time into the infrastructure. Once you get it, it's really important to keep it. But you can slam out like high tier units at maybe similar paces to lower tier units. There might still be some bumps and peaks and valleys, but I think it'll be a nice balance there. But this is starting to look pretty full. We're getting there. Still not sure about 2 armor. Might make it 1. We'll see. This is the first time I've made a ground-only attacking unit in a while. I just realized that one. That's pretty funny. Oh, I copied this from the Beast Horn, and no wonder its stats are so high. Well, this is a tier 4 unit, so it's not really that ridiculous. That would have been ridiculous. We'll give it 7 range. That's actually the highest range I think they have so far without any modifiers, so that's pretty good. Let's do the other unit. Let's do its sequel. So now that's going to be long shot. We'll say long shot cannon.yml. We'll say IC1S. Epitaph. You cannot drop your epitaph. Okay, now we have that. Don't think there will be any AoE on that one. This is predecessor anthem. All right, let's do this. Long shot. Penumbra. What did I do for Shroud Piercer? 239. I think that'll be fine. All units will be able to attack ground. That's probably a mechanic I should note, actually. In the weapons thing. Even those who do not have area of effect damage. I guess I should just note that there's a little bit more to this, right? Because everything has to have a slight amount of area damage. But basically, I'm trying to figure out a way to phrase it, because you have area of effect damage, but it can only hit one unit, basically. So, so I guess we'll say if so if a let's see, if a weapon does not have area damage, does not deal area damage, it will. I guess we'll just call it splash damage. It will. And is. We'll front end it with this, which is important. Then we'll say this, and then we could say if a weapon does not deal splash damage and is targeted on terrain instead of a unit, the first unit to enter within 0.5 range, we might change that value, 0.5 range of the target. I guess we'll just say the projectile will deal damage to the first victim it finds on within 0.5 range of the target site. There you go. I think that's probably the best way I can explain it. But I'll iterate on it over time. I don't even have Notepad++ open. That's the only thing that I needed to specifically talk about, I think. Oh, it looks like I didn't even add the note. That's weird. Maybe I'll double check that this is all up to date. Looks like it is. And then yeah, I never added the height advantage either. Okay. Git add. Yeah, well, that's what I mean by first victim it finds. Closest unit to the center. Although it's still going to be biased in some search radius or another. Like if you have the maybe not unlikely, maybe actually unlikely, I'm not sure. Circumstance where a unit is exactly the same amount of pixels between on the left or on the right. We're probably biasing our search to one of those directions, like you have to, so. Unless you wanted it to be random, which we don't. So we would probably say the search box is always biased towards the left, the top left or something, which is what Brood War did, but we'll try to make it so that that bias is not actually, I don't know. We'll see what we can do to make it not a massive game changer. In such a small case like that, I don't think it'll happen too much. Update mechanics. Oh, I also pushed my fucking long shot work because I forgot I was doing that. This unit's projectile travels to max range if it until, well, I guess we'll say travels until it reaches its max range or is absorbed by or until it collides, it damages a unit with more armor than the weapon's armor penetration. I guess I should add this as such. This unit's projectiles travel until reaching max range or damaging a unit more armor. Armor that exceeds the weapon's armor penetration. As such, this unit's projectiles can damage multiple units. Okay. We'll also rename this kinetic penetration. And the max range isn't really that high, so I don't think this is a massive runaway mechanic or anything. We'll call this kinetic penetration. And long shot massive. I think I need to add links between the text structures still. Let's see. Yeah, this needs to do long shot. It's funny that we have 2 tier 6 units now. Oh no, Firebrand is tier 5. Okay, never mind. I should also get a better icon for that one. I don't know if one exists though. I guess we could do Apostle. Or no, Autocrat is workable, I think. It's 145. Okay, that makes sense to me. And then we have... Oh, Anthem should probably be suborder 2. I don't know if I actually added a link to the Anthem here, though. Nope. Anthem. And then I know I did domain. Oh, Octagon needs to be added. The Octagon needs to say that it, what do you call it? Enables. Long shot. I said it was a pretty successful concept stream, to be honest. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new units. I feel like we did more than that. Oh yeah, I don't think I counted the Beast Horn. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. So 7 new units, and we did the Verdant Veil and the Domain for structures. Obviously, names subject to change all around. So, yeah. That's pretty solid, I think. Some pretty interesting concepts overall, probably. For my money. I could probably use the Olympian graphic for the Maverick. If I do that, I think that will be pretty solid. Was it 137? Just think it'll be nicer to have more disparity there. And I think we just get to the point where, like, yeah, we're pretty solid, to be honest. Could probably do one more unit, but nothing's really jumping out at me as a concept. I'm also not 100% sure if there's too much overlap between the Cyprian and the Strong Arm. They're both AoE-ish. The Strong Arm is a bit more like specialty with the way that it achieves AoE. And it also is ranged, which is a very big difference. Like the Cyprian's very close quarters. It's half the range, so it's pretty considerable in terms of the difference there. So I think they'll still play very differently. Whereas you'll want the strong arms behind your hotshots, and you'll want the Cyprians in front, and the constables in front of them. And constables engages in front of them, and waylays aren't really combat ready necessarily, but you might train them in a pinch, or if you just want to harass some units with their jump. So I still think that this opening tiers 1 and 2 justifies itself pretty well and doesn't have too much overlap, but that AoE thing might be something that I have to consider myself concerned by, or maybe just the melee stuff. Not sure. I mean, the executive is a bit works out a bit better, I think, because it has the it's slightly ranged. I might make it 2 instead of 1.5 just so that it's a bit more like so we're not dealing in half units. I don't really like that. So I think I'll just change that now. We'll do, where is it? So it would be constable melee. We'll set its range to 2. Oh, and I never gave it any armor pins, so I'll give it 4. Stats for executive. So that's a bit more reasonable. And I'll think about the, we can just do the wrap up now, I think. We've done this today. Now to do, I would say, obviously we still need to keep the planning up. We've been doing pretty good at that. So for the to do, I would say we have the planning, we have more of this. Oh, I used the Olympiad for Thunderhead. I'll probably just change this to something else. Or keep it the way that it is for now, whatever. We'll do the... we were denoting the idea that we wanted more concepts of various specific kinds. I just had it in my head, and I can't remember what exactly I was going for. Oh, it was the speed thing. So consider speed unit matching with range, weapon range / sight range. So this is something that I can probably put together fairly easily. And then, yeah. Besides that, are there any more mechanics we need to do? Probably not. I mean, there's probably something that I'll think about, but... Okay. I want to make sure I spelled collision correctly. Yeah, alright. I think that's probably it then. Pretty good stuff overall. I'm happy with that. And, yeah, I mean, we could take stock real quick. Let's see, how many units do we have? We have... Oh, I think this is where I could do the all.php. For it to load. Oh, it's just all in the same thing, unfortunately. I was going to hope that I could, like, count it out or something. But we could just count it out this way. So this is 8 on tier 1. 8 on tier 2. 8 on tier 3, so that's pretty full already. That's pretty interesting, because I'm probably going to add another tier 3 unit at some point. We got 4 on tier 4, funnily enough. 3 on tier 5, and 2 on tier 6. So you can tell where, like, we still need to dedicate some time to. But at this point, it's really just like the orbital and armor branches need to be a bit more fleshed out, and then we need to come up with the concept for the next tier of the Maverick, basically the successor to the Maverick. And then we'll be looking pretty good. So that's pretty exciting. It's also some utility structures, obviously, that we need to fill in. I guess for structures, we could count that out as well. Oh, I didn't really total our counts out. So I know it's 888, and then 28, 31, 2, 3. So we have 33 units, of course, 2 3s. Why would it be anything else? And for buildings, we've got 3, 7, 10, 13, 17, 20, 23. There's got to be 3 3s in there somewhere, which means a grand total of 56 concepts have been put together on this tech tree, which is not more than each individual tech tree has for the Cosmonarchy Brood War one, but I'm pretty sure we're already above. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're actually above well beyond the number that Brood War initially had. I never remember those numbers, unfortunately, but if you look at this, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 19, 23, 28, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I guess you can... so that would have been, what, 42? That would have been 41 with the Talus removed, because it's just a concept that's not implemented yet. So Yeah, about 40, we'll say about 40 units and less structures, right? 1, 2, 11, 15, 17, 18, 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, about 30 structures. We already have, we're spitting distance of Terran, even though we only really just started these guys. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty promising. So there you go. That's been the stream. Thanks all homies for hanging out and giving some ideas, talking some shit about the way things are going. And if you wanted to check this out in more detail, obviously check out fraudsclub.com/Xibalba/Ansifii.php. We'll have some links to the actual tech maps later on, although technically I think the Ansifii do. Go to the Ansifii section, it does say tech tree right here. It's a little smaller right now. We'll get something more imposing later. But yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. Post in the Discord server. Subscribe. I don't know. Whatever else you want to do. Bye.